Hello and welcome back to Bamboo Bot 2 at YouTube. Here again, as I am every week, discussing interesting, fascinating matters pertaining to bamboo products, bamboo cultivation, and bamboo enterprise. This week we're talking about developing, drafting, and preparing a bamboo business plan or business proposal. I'm just going to go over this briefly because it's pretty complicated, but I do get lots of people contacting me with this topic, questioning um, how to prepare their business plan. They want all the numbers that they can fill in and pop into their equations, and it is a pretty interesting subject. If you want to know more about bamboo businesses, bamboo products, definitely check out my website, bamboobatu.com, bambubatu.com. Hundreds of free articles. Check it out. And if you have specific, more direct questions, you can always contact me by email or leave a comment down below in the comment section. Anyway, getting into it, there is a lot of interest in bamboo farming these days. And with that interest comes many questions: how to farm bamboo. And before you start farming bamboo, before you plant that first seed, you need to have a pretty clear idea where you're going, what it's going to cost, what you can expect on the other end. And it's a bit unpredictable, let's just say. People want to jump on the bamboo ladder and climb up to the top. And understandably, bamboo is amazing. It grows like crazy. Thousands of things you can make with it. Super beneficial for the environment as a carbon sink, as an oxygen generator. All kinds of reasons why it's a good idea to plant bamboo. But when it comes to putting together a business plan, it can get a little bit tricky. I actually went on the old the artificial intelligence chatbot the other day, and I said, "Hey, Mr. AI robot, I got a question for you. How about you help me write a business proposal for an agroforestry project with bamboo?" And it wrote up a couple page summary of a business proposal for an agroforestry project that incorporated bamboo. And I must say, I was pretty impressed by what the AI chatbot came up with. But it was far from complete or thorough, and there were some inaccuracies, as there often are in predicting what bamboo will do. The biggest inaccuracies were in the time frame, and that's one of the biggest questions people have. How soon will I harvest? What's it going to look like at year 2, year 3, year 4? And there seems to be the idea that you can start harvesting after 3 years, and then you harvest every 5 years because bamboo renews itself every 5 years. And that's not really how it works. More accurately, briefly, it takes about 5, 6, 7, 8 years for the bamboo to mature and be ready for harvesting, depending on what type of products you want to be making with that bamboo. Once you start harvesting, if you're harvesting systematically and sustainably, you would be harvesting about 25% of the bamboo clump at a time and leaving the other 80% of the poles intact on the clump so that the bamboo can continue to flourish and photosynthesize and do all the important stuff that bamboo does as it gathers CO2 out of the air and produces more fresh growth. And so it's not, it takes 5 years for it to grow from seed to a big healthy plant. But once you start harvesting, you're not waiting 5 years every time. Now, if you're clear cutting the bamboo, say you're making pulp or just for paper or for wood chips for energy or something like that, and you have a massive large scale farm, or it's too difficult and labor intensive to go in and harvest only 20% or so of the culms at a time from each plant, then you might prefer to be clear cutting and just cutting down all the poles at once in a certain area and then rotate areas. So this year we're going to clear cut this section. Next year we clear cut this section, and you break it into like a cycle of maybe 3 different areas. So, the first zone you harvest this year, the second zone you harvest next year, the third zone you harvest the next year, and then on the fourth year, you come back to the first zone, which should be grown back pretty well by then. Anyway, it gets pretty complicated the more you get into it. It's not rocket science, but it's not a tree and it's not an annual. It's a grass, and so the scheduling of the harvesting is it's a bit different than what most farmers are used to. So you got to wrap your mind around that first and foremost. The other interesting thing about trying to devise a business plan for bamboo farm is that bamboo has been around. Humans have been using bamboo for hundreds, thousands actually of years, and there's a great relationship between humans and bamboo. It's a plant that just keeps on giving. And historically, in places like China, Southeast Asia, where bamboo really flourishes, um, and is super abundant, people will just go into the forest and harvest a reasonable amount of bamboo and bring it back to the village and build whatever they're making, whether they're building a house, making musical instruments, building furniture, making weapons, perhaps even for hunting and stuff. Of course, you can make lots of different things with bamboo. So they would harvest their bamboo for these reasons. And, maybe 6 months or a year later, or whenever, they would go back and harvest more bamboo. And they would harvest a little bit from this area, a little bit from that area, um, wisely and sustainably harvesting, leaving the majority of the bamboo forest intact. And nobody had to plan out a bamboo farm. The idea of taking this grass that looks like a tree and grows so well in nature and trying to domesticate it and cultivate it on a farm didn't really seem necessary or make much sense uh, to most people. If there was so much bamboo in the wild, they would use their farmland to grow something more difficult to find in nature. They would focus on cultivating food crops and things that aren't so commonly found in the forest. But when it was time to get bamboo, they would just go out into the woods, into the jungle, wherever it was where they knew bamboo to be growing very well, and they would harvest it, again, leaving most of it behind so that the following year they could count on there being more bamboo available. And that's what they did for generations after generation. Um, but in the recent years, just maybe in the last, say, 10, 20, 30 years, as bamboo has really caught on in popularity throughout the world, and as forestry issues have become more severe, deforestation and such, and the need to protect endangered forests and to stop cutting down old growth trees and hardwood trees and tropical jungles and forests and such, it has become more and more important to look at things like bamboo, um, which is super renewable and produces super high quality wood. And so bamboo has been recognized as increasingly valuable and important in our portfolio of natural resources. And so farming bamboo has become a pretty attractive option for a lot of farmers, particularly in the tropical world, throughout Southern Asia, Indonesia, Africa, South America, Latin America. And so as the production development of these farms increases, people are looking for, okay, how do I actually start a bamboo farm? And so they look around. First thing you're going to do is see, how do other people farm bamboo? And at this point, there are a few examples in the world of models you can look at where people are growing bamboo, but most of those are pretty young. Like I said, it's been historically bamboo has been harvested from the forests. In China, they're vast forests of moso bamboo, which the local rural populations continue to manage and harvest responsibly for the most part and sustainably. But going out and starting a bamboo plantation from scratch in an area that used to be grassland or degraded landscape from an old mining site, or overfarmed, degraded agricultural land, or other places where bamboo is very suitable to be farmed. It's quite a bit different than dealing with the bamboo forest, and so starting from scratch where bamboo has not been growing um, and trying to calculate, okay, how long is this going to take? How much money am I going to be making? How many tons of bamboo will I harvest per acre at year 4, at year 5, at year 6? It's very difficult. You can look to other models around the world. Like I said, you might compare. Okay, here's a bamboo farm in Kenya. What kind of numbers do they have? And a lot of these farms, maybe they're only 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old. And you look at the numbers and you say, okay, well, their bamboo looks like this at year 5. What's it going to look like at year 10 when I should be at like full production? It's hard to say. And will your bamboo farm in Ghana have similar results as this one in Kenya, or will it be more like something else? Or if you're farming in Zambia, will it be pretty similar to this farm in Kenya? The soil type, the climate type, the precipitation, so many different factors to look at. Um, it gets pretty complicated. And then people want to know, okay, I want to farm bamboo. I want to make a lot of money. What's the best species to grow? And that's a real black and white question with a real with an answer that's full of gray gradations, because it totally depends why, what your end goal is with the bamboo, what products you want to be making. Again, the climate, the soil, precipitation is going to be key. Lots of things to consider. And so if you want to find a bamboo farm somewhere in the world that has conditions that match your conditions, to get the most reliable model by which to come up with your calculations and your numbers for the costs and return on investment and all these things. Yeah, it gets tricky. So yeah, you might look at a bamboo farm like this in Kenya if you're farming in somewhere equatorial, where it rains a fair amount. Maybe it rains 1,000 millimeters per year. Maybe it rains more. Maybe it's a higher altitude in Kenya than what you have. Maybe you're dealing with something more like this. Ecuador, high elevation, lots and lots of rain. The bamboo grows enormous, and you can hope that your bamboo will look like this. But if you do your numbers based on this, the productivity of this bamboo farm, but your bamboo farm only looks like that one in Kenya, then your numbers aren't going to be that accurate. So lots of factors to consider. And there's no, at the end of the day, there's no clear agreed upon set of numbers where you can say this is how much it costs to plant an acre of bamboo, because it depends on a lot of things. Cost of labor locally, for one, is going to be a huge variable. And more importantly, trying to calculate the return on investment and how long it's going to take to make your money back. If you're not harvesting until year 4, or maybe year 5, or maybe not even until year 8, depending again on what products you want to be making in the end. Yeah, it's tricky. So I think I said that already, but I can't say it enough that it's a tricky and complicated calculation. So the best thing you can do is make a very well educated guess, consult with experts, look at different models, look at different examples of bamboo farms, see what they're doing, see what their results are, and come up with a variety of possibilities. A worst case scenario, best case scenario, and a middle case. And I always recommend preparing for the worst. There's nothing worse than over promising and under delivering. So if you look at the worst case scenario and prepare for that, and hopefully you'll do better than the worst case. You should do better than the worst case. That's why they call it the worst case, because everything has to go wrong. But sometimes things do go wrong. Sometimes you plant bamboo and then the next year there's a drought or a pandemic or something that totally messes up your plans. Luckily, bamboo is pretty resistant to all these different things, but you need to prepare for these different possibilities. On the other hand, you might end up planting at just the right time. You might just have found a sweet spot where the elevation is just right, the precipitation is just right, the amount of sunlight is just right, and all those conditions fall into place, and you've picked the right species, and you end up with a beautiful, lush bamboo farm or forest, something like this. Anyway, lots of different possible outcomes. Best to be prepared for any and all of those outcomes. And if you're planning on planting 1,000 hectares of bamboo or 10,000 hectares of bamboo, don't just roll it all out in one year. No matter what size bamboo farm you're planning, start out small. Do a pilot project. Do maybe 1 acre, maybe 5 acres, 10 acres, something small and manageable. Try a few different species. See what actually works. See what doesn't work, because what worked on that farm in Ecuador might not work where you're growing, but some other species might work a lot better. Maybe the plant density that they're using there doesn't make sense for what you're doing. Maybe you want to plant more densely, or maybe you want to spread yours out more. Try some different species, try some different densities, try with and without irrigation. If you can avoid irrigation, you can save a lot of time, money, and headache. But if there's not enough rainfall and you have no irrigation, your bamboo is just not going to get that big. Bamboo can survive without a lot of irrigation once it's established. But if you're trying to grow bamboo commercially, competitively, and make a business out of it, you want more than just bamboo that survives. You want bamboo that thrives and produces a lot. So either deal with irrigation or um, pick out a location that has abundant rainfall, say at least 1,500 millimeters per year, or 2,000 is great. More than 2,000 is awesome. Then you really get some serious bamboo, and you can grow many different species and that with that kind of rainfall. Anyway, that's a little bit to think about. Again, you can't rely 100% on the artificial intelligence on the internet, or even half the articles that you read on the internet. But if you want to know more, hit me up. I like talking about bamboo. If you watch any of my videos, you'll see that I can talk about bamboo for days and days and hours on end, and pick my brain, set up a brain picking session or a consultation, and I'd love to help you out. I like to see bamboo grow, and I like to help bamboo growers grow better and more successfully. Nothing worse than watching people go out there and plant bamboo unprepared and having a catastrophe with it, because that just spoils it for everyone. The more people grow bamboo and do so successfully, the better example that sets. It proves that bamboo is a sustainable, realistic, viable model for the future of agriculture and wood production and so much more. So carry on and share it, click it, comment, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, do all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.